Hello, and welcome back to episode 4 of the podcast with Aisha. First off, I want to thank everyone who took the time to watch and listen. Your support means the world to me, and I sincerely appreciate it. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to clarify a few things. The purpose of these podcasts is not to defame anyone's character or attack anyone personally. That's not who I am. I carry myself with dignity and respect for others, and I would never use this platform to castigate anyone. My aim is to share life lessons I've learned, and I'm certain you'll find value in the stories I share. Life is unpredictable, and while we make plans, it's ultimately God who is the master planner. In the last episode, I talked about telling people I was married when I actually wasn't, as well as some of the toxic work situations I experienced, particularly involving my colleagues and the finance director. We're going to pick up from there today. The finance director, from the beginning, didn't seem to want me there. It was made clear to me that even when I was hired, he wasn't in favor of it. For reasons known only to him, he was wary of my relationship with the managing director, MD, unsure how close we were. He quickly realized I wasn't someone he could manipulate. I knew the policies and procedures, and I wasn't easily intimidated, which made him uncomfortable. One specific memory stands out. I greeted him several times, but he refused to respond. This happened on multiple occasions, even when others were present. Eventually, I decided I would no longer greet him. Oddly enough, when I didn't greet him, he became angry and accused me of being rude. He demanded to know why I hadn't greeted him, which was ironic given how he'd ignored me in the past. To be clear, I respect authority and recognize positions of power, but I don't worship anyone. I respect boundaries, but I won't become a slave to anyone's ego. Now, regarding my personal life, I did eventually marry my husband while I was still working at Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. We had a modest wedding on a Friday and returned to work the following Monday. I hadn't told many people about the wedding, since I had already mentioned I was married. When people found out in the office, it became office gossip. I was called a liar and accused of living with a man out of wedlock. It was messy, but I didn't feel the need to explain myself. My intentions were pure, and I don't owe anyone an explanation. One thing I've learned, and I want you to take away from this, is that toxic people rarely progress in life. They tend to stay stuck because they're bitter and insecure. Toxicity often stems from fear of being overshadowed by someone else's success. So, if you ever find yourself in a toxic environment, remember, it's usually because the person feels threatened by your presence. They see something in you they wish they had. Now, back to my story. As my 6-month probation period at the company was nearing its end, I had a dream that the MD was leaving. I mentioned it to my dad, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the dream had some truth to it. A few days later, I told the MD about the dream, and we laughed it off. But later that evening, he called me and confirmed that he had indeed been released from his duties. I was shocked, heartbroken, and felt completely vulnerable. I knew I'd be the next to go, and it became very clear that without him, my time at the company was limited. On his last day in the office, I was struck by how empty his office was. The people who once crowded around him were nowhere to be found. It was a harsh reminder of how quickly people abandon you when you no longer hold power. I'll end this episode here, but stay tuned for episode 5, where I'll continue sharing more about my journey. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel.